Breaking news from around your world on this Friday, March 22nd, 2019. I'm Larry Rice. An explosion at a pesticide plant in eastern China killed 47 people and injured more than 600, according to state media on Friday, the latest casualties in a series of industrial accidents that has angered the Chinese public. The blast occurred in the city of Yancheng in Jiangsu province, and the fire was finally brought under control at 3 a.m. Friday, according to state television. Survivors were taken to 16 hospitals, with 640 people being treated for various injuries. 32 of them were critically hurt. The cause of the explosion is under investigation, but the company, which produces more than 30 organic chemical compounds, some of which are highly flammable, has been cited and fined for work safety violations in the past, according to the China Daily. Public anger over safety standards has grown in China over industrial accidents ranging from mining disasters to factory fires that have marred 3 decades of swift economic growth. In 2015, 165 people were killed in a series of explosions at a chemical warehouse in the northern city of Tianjin. North Korea on Friday pulled out of a liaison office with South Korea, citing instructions from the superior authority, according to South Korea's unification ministry. The abrupt move followed last month's summit between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, which ended without a deal on denuclearization and sanctions relief. The liaison office opened last September near the border between the two Koreas as part of a push to improve relations. Kim and South Korean President Moon Jae-in agreed to open the office during their historic April summit. In addition, the U.S. imposed sanctions on Thursday on 2 Chinese shipping companies it says helped North Korea evade sanctions over its nuclear weapons program, the first since the U.S.-North Korean summit collapsed last month. The U.S. Treasury Department also issued an updated advisory that listed 67 vessels that it said had engaged in illicit transfers of refined petroleum with North Korean tankers or were believed to have exported North Korean coal. U.S.-North Korean engagement has appeared to be in limbo since the February 27-28 summit in Hanoi, despite Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying on March 4th he was hopeful he could send a team to North Korea in the next couple of weeks. Accused mail bomber Cesar Sayoc pleaded guilty Thursday to sending more than a dozen pipe bombs to prominent Democrats and news outlets last year. The 57-year-old Florida man pleaded guilty to 65 felony counts, including using weapons of mass destruction in an attempted domestic terrorist attack, for sending 16 explosive devices to people including former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, as well as CNN's offices in October. He initially pleaded not guilty to 30 charges that included interstate transport of explosives and mailing explosives before entering the guilty plea on Thursday. Sayoc faces a maximum sentence of life in prison and is set to be sentenced on September the 12th. Sayoc told the court he intended for the devices to look like pipe bombs, but not to detonate, despite packing them with fertilizer and powder from fireworks. Brazilian former President Michel Temer was arrested Thursday morning in Sao Paulo by a Rio de Janeiro-based task force in charge of a years-long corruption investigation involving bribes in exchange for government contracts. According to the confession of businessman Jose Antunes, owner of Injures, Antunes admitted paying a bribe to a colonel with Temer's knowledge to win a government contract. In addition to that case, Temer faces 9 other investigations, 5 of them in Supreme Court. The 78-year-old former president is the second president in Brazil's history to be arrested after a corruption investigation. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva began serving a prison sentence for corruption last year. Temer served as president of Brazil from August 2016 through December 2018. He was preceded by Dilma Rousseff, who was impeached. The so-called car wash is an investigation that's been going on for many years, involving schemes of bribe payments in exchange for government projects involving several countries across Latin America. American Airlines pilots expect to test Boeing's 737 MAX software fix on simulators this weekend, a key step in restoring their confidence in the jet after 2 fatal crashes. That's according to a statement from the pilots union to Reuters on Thursday. Boeing has been working on a software upgrade for an anti-stall system and pilot displays on its fastest-selling jetliner in the wake of the deadly Lion Air crash in Indonesia in October. Similarities between the flight path in the Lion Air incident and a fatal Ethiopian Airlines crash March 10th have raised fresh questions about the system, and pilots want assurances that the update is solid. The 2 crashes killed everyone on board both aircraft, a total of 346 people. American is the second largest U.S. airline operating the MAX in the United States, behind Southwest Airlines. United Airlines is the 3rd U.S. carrier to operate the MAX. The MAX jets were grounded worldwide in the wake of the Ethiopian crash. Boeing has proposed new computer-based training on the software update, which also needs FAA approval, followed by a mandatory test. For the aircraft to fly again, U.S. pilots must complete new training approved by the FAA. American and Southwest pilots have said the training should be enhanced, and Europe and Canada have said they would seek their own guarantees over the safety of the 737 MAX. European leaders have given Prime Minister Theresa May 2 weeks reprieve until April 12th before Britain could lurch out of the EU if she fails to persuade lawmakers to back the withdrawal treaty she concluded with Brussels. But after 7 hours of summit brainstorming on Thursday, her 27 peers kept a host of options open, ramping up pressure on Parliament to support May, giving Britain an outside chance of staying in for much longer, but also preparing to deflect blame for the chaos of any no-deal Brexit. May had wanted to be able to delay Britain's departure until June 30th to tie up legislative loose ends, and tried to reassure the EU that she could overturn 2 heavy defeats to clinch a last-gasp parliamentary ratification of her deal next week, allowing a status quo transition period to come into effect. EU leaders had planned to endorse a shorter extension to May 22nd, the eve of EU parliamentary elections, and leave any discussion of how to deal with May losing until next week. The outcome, with which May declared herself satisfied, was that the May 22nd date will apply if Parliament rallies behind her next week. If it does not, Britain will have until April 12th to offer a new plan or choose to quit without a treaty. President Trump said Thursday it was time to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights that Israel seized from Syria in 1967, marking a dramatic shift in U.S. policy and giving a boost to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the middle of his re-election campaign. The disputed area was captured by Israel in the 1967 Middle East War and annexed in 1981 in a move not recognized internationally. Netanyahu has pressed the United States to recognize its claim and raised that possibility in his first White House meeting with Trump in February 2017. Trump wrote on Twitter, "After 52 years, it's time for the United States to fully recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, which is of critical strategic and security importance to the state of Israel and regional stability." Trump's move appeared to be his most overt yet to help Netanyahu, who is locked in a closely contested race in the April 9th election, while also fighting allegations of corruption, which he denies. Netanyahu arrives in Washington next week to meet with Trump and address the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, lobbying group. Facebook said it stored hundreds of millions of account passwords with no encryption in plain, searchable text, where thousands of employees had access to it. The social media giant confirmed the problem Thursday and issued a statement that said it had since fixed the problem. We have fixed these issues, and as a precaution, we will be notifying everyone whose passwords we have found were stored this way. Facebook officials added that there is nothing more important to us than protecting people's information. Cybersecurity journalist Krebson Security broke the story Tuesday. This could affect as many as 600 million users going back to 2012. The social network has 2.7 billion users. Facebook told Krebson Security that no signs of misuse of data have been found and there was no actual risk that comes from this. The exposed passwords affect Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook Lite, a version of Facebook for areas with slower internet speeds. Facebook will notify affected users. Anyone can change their password at any time. Twitter and GitHub admitted to similar password breaches in recent months. The Powerball jackpot increased to $625 million Thursday after no one won Wednesday night's drawing. It's the fourth largest Powerball in history and seventh largest in U.S. lottery history. There were 44 tickets with the right Powerball numbers to win $50,000. The last Powerball winner in New York State got a $298.3 million jackpot. The next drawing will be Saturday. The odds of winning are 1 in more than 292 million. The Mega Millions grand prize totaled $1.5 billion in October, prompting long lines at gas stations. A woman from South Carolina claimed that prize but remained anonymous. At 94 years and 172 days old, Jimmy Carter is now the longest living U.S. president. The 39th president was born October 1st, 1924. When former President George H.W. Bush died in November, he was 94 years and 171 days old. Carter was also the first American president born in a hospital. In office for one term, he has spent the last several decades dedicated to service, building houses with Habitat for Humanity and launching the nonpartisan and nonprofit Carter Center, which focuses on public policy. In 2002, he received the Nobel Prize. Carter announced in 2015 that he had cancer, which started in his liver and spread. He underwent surgery and has now been declared cancer-free by his doctors. And that's your update for this Friday, March 22nd, 2019. I'm Larry Rice. Thanks so much for listening and for supporting this podcast with your generous donations. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.